Alright, let's see if I remember how to do this. Hi, happy Pride Month, by the way. That's one of the first things I ever said on this channel. My first videos were those Pride Month recommendations. How has it already been a year? I can't believe that. Anyway, in May, as you may recall if you watched my previous wrap-up, I was recovering from top surgery for the most part. I read 8 books, which is nice. The first book I read, I actually finished on the 1st of May, so like, I was reading it in April. But anyway, I asked my friend Alex for recommendations for books that were like lighthearted, not too heavy, since my entire TBR consisted of books about death. I figured, you know, being in recovery, I want to read something a bit more fun. She came through with some recommendations. I've only read this one so far. Happy Hour by Marla Granados. This is about 2 girls who go to New York basically to just fuck around. They sell secondhand clothing on the market and they go to parties, and that's all they do. I did not love this book. I feel like my expectations for this were a bit higher. I felt like it would be a bit more fun, like if that was all that was gonna happen, but it's written in like a diary style, which can be fun, but I feel like there was not really any depth to it. I feel like every time she had an interesting thought, which was many times, don't get me wrong, but every time she did, I feel like she didn't come through with that. She just cut herself off to talk about something else again, and that kind of took me out of it every time. Yeah, this was not a favorite, sadly, but it did really make me want to travel again, because it's been a while. I want to live like this. That's a good thing. Like, any thought I get from a book is welcome. The next book I read was the last one that I read for uni. The year is done, it's over. I've sat through everything. I made it, I'm alive. Good for me. Anyway, this was the book, Disgrace by Kutse. This was heavy, let's just put it like that. This is about a sexual assault that happens to the daughter of the main character, who is a bit of a creep himself. Not just a bit, he's like a full-on fucking creep. He's kind of having to consider the fact that raping women is bad because it's happened to his daughter. So like that's the time to kind of reconcile with that, except he doesn't really seem to realize that he has also done it to women. I don't feel like he fully understood that women are like people. I think this book was kind of trying to do what Prima Facie tried to do, look at sexual assault from 2 different sides and then have a change of heart about it. Except this one kind of forgot to consider that women are people. And I don't think that these are Kutse's views, because it was very obvious that the other characters were not vibing with his shit. I don't know, I am very relieved that I will not have to read anything written by men again for a long time, not cis men at least. The next book I read was Spring, because it is spring and I love spring. This is fun because while I was at my mum's, I took a lot of walks to the woods, and on the way I saw a lot of this specific scenery. I tried to take a picture of the book and that scenery in one shot, but it was kind of hard since, you know, my arms are only that long and you can't fit everything into one shot. But anyway, I love this book a lot. I feel like it's hard to say anything about Ellie Smith books, like in general. I love the way that Ellie Smith doesn't give a fuck about structure and like normal narrative style. She just does whatever the fuck she wants, and I respect that. I love that. I'm willing to go on board with whatever she does, and she took me on the ride. This hit some really important topics about immigration, mostly. I feel like it's mostly about immigration into the UK and the refugee crisis, which we shouldn't be calling a crisis. There were some characters in here that I just adored, loved very much. First of all, Florence, she was wonderful. And then also Patty, if you've read this, you know what I mean. The next book I read was Crying in hmod. Like I said, there was a lot of books about death on my TBR. I decided to bring this one because I was with my mum. It was Mother's Day. I felt like that was like the safest place to read about somebody's mum dying. This book is heartbreaking. It's very, very sad. I find it kind of hard to talk about this because like this is such a personal account of such a tragic thing happening to somebody. I feel that my expectations for this were very, very high. They were scratched. Let's just put it like that. I was kind of expecting it to be a bit more about her music too, which is maybe a stupid thing to expect when it's not marketed that way, like at all. It's kind of marketed as a food memoir. It's not about her being in a band at all. But I just thought that was kind of a shame because I love reading about musicians, and I just felt like I was missing out on that a little bit. But, you know, on the other hand, I started listening to Japanese Breakfast a lot on these walks to the woods, and it was a wonderful soundtrack. Respect for Michelle Zana, because also she is a fantastic writer and an amazing musician. So the next book I read was, I just forgot to Dutch. I was like, what is that? Okay. This book is called Het aanbidden van Louis Klaus. Louis Klaus? Louis? I don't know. I felt weird about this book. It's about a very awkward, painful adolescence that's like just so awkward to read about. And it's like it's meant that way. But to me, it was a bit too awkward. I felt a bit weird about this book because I think I know too much about the author, or I know too much about the book, but like I know that this was kind of personal for the author when he was writing it. He is trans, he wasn't when he was writing this. So reading about his girlhood, knowing what I know now, dare I say I was triggered. I don't think I want to say that, but maybe I was a little bit, actually. Also, I didn't translate this title. The title means the, wait, what does it mean? Oh my God, here we go again. The worshipping. Yeah, it's called The Worshipping of Louis Klaus, whatever. There wasn't a lot of worshipping of him. It's like about how he was like the main character's first boyfriend, then they break up, and like a few years later he's a famous actor. Suddenly I remember the plot, by the way. There is a plot, and this is it. He wasn't actually in it all that much, which I thought was a bit weird because his name is in the title. But anyway, Valentijn Hoogkamp is a great writer. I would definitely recommend his book Auntie Boy. Then I finally did it. Guys, I finally fucking did it. I finished Lot by Brian Washington. By the way, this was part of a 4-day streak on which I finished a book every single day, starting with Crying in hmod, onto the next one the next day, and then this one. I have expressed my thoughts on this before. I didn't like it. This is a book of short stories. To me, it was kind of like an album on which every song has the exact same beat and the exact same melody, just the lyrics are like slightly tweaked. That's what this book felt like to me. I'm sorry. There were 2 stories in here that I kind of liked. One of them was magical realism because it was about, is it a mythological creature? I don't know. It's from like Mexican folklore. I think it was chupacabra. Anyway, there's a story about that in there which I thought was really cool, but it wasn't like, it sounded the same as all the other songs, let's just say it like that. But the other story that I liked in here was one of the longer ones, and it was the second to last one, so like it took me a while to get to that. At that point it was too late to salvage the book, sadly, but it was about a group of street boys who were prostitutes in the city, like the city that this takes place in. That story was by far the best one. If it had been just that story, I would have liked this book a whole lot better, but it wasn't. I didn't really like all the other ones, so sorry. Then the next day, it was May 19th, which to me is a sacred holiday in my life. May 19th last year was the day that I saw Prima Facie in London. And so this year on May 19th, I read the play to like celebrate the anniversary of this play changing my life. If you don't know, apparently I haven't talked about this enough, so I will talk about it again some more. This is a one-woman play performed by Miss Jodie Comer, who is a barrister in this. Everything I know about the law, I know from this play. So like, bear with me here, but she's a barrister and she defends a lot of guys in sexual assault cases. She's very, very good at that until one day she gets into a situation of her own in which she's sexually assaulted, and when she goes on trial for that, she realizes that the system that she's dedicated her life to is shit. And basically the patriarchy is making it very hard for women to win cases like this, and so it's about her like struggle with all that. Being in the play was very much like you're in the courtroom and you're watching her doing her work, but she's also like telling you her story, her every emotion, everything. She's also playing a lot of other characters. It's ridiculous. I could literally talk about this for longer than this play lasts, which is 2 hours. almost. It's 100 minutes. She's gonna win a Tony, by the way, next week. I think she's got it in the bag. I never go to theater, so like I don't know anything about it, but I do know that this has to be the most legendary, phenomenal, insane thing that anyone has ever done on a stage. I still can't believe I witnessed that. I can't even believe that she can do that as many times as she does without going completely insane, because I know I would, but she's better than all of us. Anyway, this play in itself, it's still very good if you just read it, because the structure of this is so fucking good. Like the way that it's built up, and there's all these like subtle hints to like what's coming. You'll remember them once you get to it. There's these lines that are being repeated in different ways that just make it hit so much harder. Like this is written so wonderfully. Like it hits so fucking hard. Like it's if anyone has a chance, because she's still going to be on Broadway for a few more weeks, I think. So I don't know if anyone will be able to see it in that time. But if you are, you have to. That was the end of my 4-day streak of finishing a book every day, which has never happened to me before, I think. After that, I stopped doing that because I wanted to read a book about a boy being loved. I felt like that was something I need. I never read about boys being loved because I tend to avoid reading about men in general, but I wanted to feel a bit loved myself, maybe. For some reason, I chose Hamlet by Maggie O'Farrell. Do you know what? It delivered. This boy was very much being loved, also by me, and then it shattered my heart into a million fucking tiny pieces. Do we know what this is about? I think at this point we do. This is about Shakespeare's son, who passed away when he was 11 years old, while Shakespeare was off doing his thing in London. He is not mentioned by name in this book. He is a character in the book, obviously. They just don't name him. He's the only character in the book that they don't name, but you know who he is. The book is more about his wife and his son and his two sisters, although I would have loved to have seen a bit more of the sisters, but it's mostly about the mother and the son, and a mother losing a son. I will say, I thought this took a very, very long time to get going. Like, you know he's dying from the start, obviously. It's a piece of historical, it's not historical fiction technically, because it's not, well, it is historical fiction then, isn't it? Yeah, it's just not like fact, loosely based on fact, but it's not fact. He doesn't die until like halfway through the book. So for the first half of it, I was kind of impatient. I was just like, I know it's coming, and I was a bit confused because, well, if you read it, you'll know why I was confused with the whole lead up. But then when he did pass away, sadly, the way everything was so viscerally described tore my soul apart. It was so fucking sad. I don't think I haven't cried this much reading a book since I read Julian by Symmetries, which is also about someone dying, but that one is autobiographical. It's about a real person. By the way, not only is this book being turned into a movie, it's also currently in translation into English. So you guys are going to be able to read that soon-ish. I don't know when, but like when it comes out, I will let you know because you'll need to be on that. Anyway, back to talking about this one. This one made me cry so hard that I had to stop reading because I just couldn't see anymore. I could hardly breathe. I was sobbing, ugly sobbing. It was ridiculous. It was rough, but I had a great time because I do love to feel things every now and then. Then on to, should I do movies first or should I'll do the cheeky little book haul first. In my defense, I was at my mum's place, so all of my old books are there. 2 of these I just took out of a box from my mother's attic, like I already had them. One of them is Lolita, which I started back when I bought it in 2013. That's 10 years ago. I don't think I ever got past like page 60 because I was not on that level of English yet at that point. Sean McComb really likes this book and he has talked it up to me a bit after I was like, do I want to read that? But then he talked it up to the point where I was like, I do want to read that because I love reading about insane people. So, and the other one I took home with me was If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. I have so many of these ugly ass editions. They're ridiculous. They're so fucking ugly, but it's James Baldwin, so I want to read it, so I took it home with me. Even if it's an ugly ass edition, I will read it at some point. I also bought some books though, because I wanted to. It was kind of dumb. Like when I was going home, I was like, why did I do this? Obviously, I hadn't had time to read any of them yet. But yeah, I bought 4 books. Secondhand, but still. I apologize for how fucking ugly these are. I mostly apologize to myself because like I bought these. But anyway, in the book Julian, the writer Fleur Pretz, she talks a lot about the writer Siri Hustvedt. Is that how you say that? She writes a lot about that writer. So I was looking for books by her. This is the one I picked, and this cover makes me want to throw up a little bit. It's bad. Anyway, this is A Summer Without Men. I chose it because of the title. I don't think I could even see the cover because I don't think I would have picked it if I had seen this. Anyway, the title intrigued me. Another one I got was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This time, this one is also hideous. I am vehemently against movie poster covers, as we all should be. To be fair, I didn't know there was a movie. I've seen other people talking about this. I think also Sean McComb, but also some other people who talked about how amazing this book was. I think it's about a woman who grew up in a weird kind of, I don't know that much about it. Let's just put it like that. Anyway, she like breaks free from her weird little family and then lives a wild life in New York, I think. I don't know. I'm gonna find out. And hopefully I will be able to ignore this hideous cover because it is bad. It's bad. Anyways. Obviously, I wasn't just gonna buy a book by a Jeanette W. I also got some by Jeanette Winston. This has got Symmetries. I kind of like this cover in a weird way. It's a hardcover. I never heard of it until a month ago, but I will be going to Liverpool this summer and I wanted to read books that take place in Liverpool, but when you Google books that take place in Liverpool, they come with like crime novels and I'm not interested in that. Then I was like, wait, isn't Jeanette Winston born like in that area? She's from Manchester, but she grew up in like Lancaster, I believe, which isn't that far away from Liverpool or Manchester. So I was like, maybe she has books about Liverpool, and she does. It's this one. I'm hoping to read that one there, but I am kind of annoyed it's a hardback, because who the fuck wants to take a hardback in a suitcase? Or maybe it doesn't matter. I don't really know. I'm kind of annoyed that I have to wait for that trip to read this, because I want to read it now. Since I had to wait, and I cannot wait reading Jeanette Winston, I also got this one. I have actually almost finished it. I'm at the last essay. This is Art Objects or Art Objects. Think about that for a second. Essays on ecstasy and effrontery. I still don't know what effrontery is, but I guess I will find out in the last essay. This book is changing my life. I am reading one essay a day, and every thought this woman has blows my mind. This is all about her passion for art and for literature and for words and language in general, and about how the current capitalist society that we live in is quite disrespectful and dismissive of art and creatives as people. This is the part that I dog-eared because it reminds me of like how with booktube and book talk and bookstagram, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel pressure to like read as much as I possibly can and have opinions on everything that everyone else is also reading, so that, I don't know, I guess so that maybe we can talk about it or something like that. But anyway, we do kind of pressure ourselves into saying things about as much as possible. What she said on this page reminded me of that. She's talking about journalism here, but like this was in the late 1990s, so I think we could easily translate that to like influencer culture. What she says is, journalism encourages haste in the writer, haste in the reader, and haste is the enemy of art. Art in its making and in its enjoying demands long tracts of time. Books, like cats, do not wear watches. Art objects to the vagaries of love culture. But, you may say, who has long hours for a book these days? The answer must be whoever wants to read one. It's so very much about like slowing down to take in art and to give back to art what art is giving to you by actually paying attention to it and working on understanding it. She's talking about how it takes work to let a piece of art work on you. Art can do so much for us in a world where everything is about money and progress, and sentimentalism is kind of seen as this antagonist to those things. She's arguing that art is the most human and the most real thing that we have, and that we should hold on to it, and we should enjoy it, we should learn to enjoy it, we should put work into enjoying it. And I'm just loving this so fucking much. She was already my favorite. She doesn't have to go off this hard. Anyway, I'm still reading it. I will go off about this book again next month, and also soon, because I'm doing a video on Jeanette Winterson soon, obviously. It's been a long time coming, but this one's definitely going to be in there because I have a lot to say about this book and I love it so much. I've also been reading this still, Tour de Trans by Eus van der Gift, who is a guy who's just biking his way from the Netherlands to Istanbul with his dog. I'm almost done at this point. It's a travel memoir. I'm kind of taking it slow, especially the part where he gets to Eastern Europe is so very interesting. He's learned a lot about the history from those places. He keeps constantly comparing his transition to literally everything, which is kind of annoying, gets really repetitive after a while, but it is very interesting. Anyway, then I'm also currently reading, this doesn't really count because it's June 6th, which means it's the release date of this, Page Boy by Elliot Page. I just picked it up. I read the first 2 chapters in the bookstore. They were great. He's a pretty solid writer. I haven't really touched upon anything of substance yet, but I do really like it so far. And I'm loving the vibe of this picture. I'm thinking I should maybe do a reading vlog about this, because me and Elliot, we go way back. He doesn't know it, but I do. I don't know yet. We'll see. That was it. Let me know what you read this month. I'm very curious. Do you have any recommendations? Or did you only read shit? I hope you didn't. That would be sad. I have nothing else to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and read So Much Blues. Have a nice day. Bye. I always forget to make a thumbnail with all the books involved. I'm just gonna do it now. How do people even do that? I didn't get it. Have I got it? That's it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, cool. We have a thumbnail.